guys, welcome! In this video, we're taking an in-depth look at Warlock's third master skill, Interstellar Raid, and breaking down exactly how it works and how to maximize its damage. Interstellar Raid summons a barrage of meteors onto a designated location, dealing magic damage every 0.3 seconds to all enemies within the circular area. The meteors' element randomly alternate among wind, earth, water, and fire elements, lasting for 6 seconds by default. Upon casting, it will tow all enemies to the center, giving it a solid crowd control value on top of its damage. It can even be cast on top of Earth Field, and it continuously clears all traps, hell plants, and Earth Field effects within its range. That utility alone makes it very impactful in GVG. The downside is its 15-second cooldown, so you cannot just spam it and need to time and position it properly. Now let's talk about its passives. The first passive, All Nature Etching, grants Interstellar Raid up to 30% chance to inflict burn, freeze, stun, or bleed status. On top of that, it increases Interstellar Raid's damage against enemies affected by abnormal statuses by up to 30%. When combined with Warlock's status vulnerability, you can reach a total of 64% more damage to enemies inflicted with burn, freeze, stun, or bleed status. The second passive, Wind's Breath Purification, extends Interstellar Raid's duration by up to 3 seconds, pushing it to a total of 9 seconds. It also reduces the cast delay of all ground AoE magic damage skills by up to 2 seconds, which makes your skill rotation smoother. And the third passive, Starglow Resonance, adds even more synergy to ground-based skills. Every time you manually cast a ground AoE magic damage skill other than Interstellar Raid, it triggers a minor Interstellar Raid at a target location that summons up to 10 meteors. The minor Interstellar Raid doesn't tow enemies or remove ground effects, so it's purely for additional damage. The meteor's element matches the element of the skill that triggered them. That means Lord of Vermilion produces wind meteors, Meteor Storm produces fire meteors, Storm Gust produces water meteors, and both Earth's Drain and Heaven's Drive produce earth meteors. Keep in mind that there's a 3-second interval between each type of minor Interstellar Raid. Because of this, it's more efficient to cast different AoE magic skills instead of repeatedly casting the same one. Personally, I prefer putting Interstellar Raid, Meteor Storm, Earth's Drain, and Lord of Vermilion in my auto-rotation as it feels the most stable in practice. Storm Gust has a very long fixed cast time which slows down the entire rotation, while Heaven's Drive has no cast delay at all, causing it to be cast too quickly and disrupt the sequence of the other skills. By excluding those two from auto, the rotation becomes much cleaner and the minor Interstellar Raid triggers more consistently. All in all, Interstellar Raid offers powerful zone control with strong damage scaling when built correctly. So how do you boost the damage of Interstellar Raid? Since it rotates through all 4 basic elements, you need to invest in fire, wind, water, and earth element damage. It's also considered a regular AoE skill magic damage, so you need to pump your magic attack, magic damage, ignore death, M10, AoE magic damage, skill damage, and final damage. Additionally, you can use damage modifiers based on the targets you're fighting, such as damage to MVP and mini, damage to normal monsters, damage to targets under abnormal statuses, and damage based on the target's race. Just remember that damage to size and damage to element modifiers do not affect magic damage. Up next is look at the recommended stats and damage modifiers. For attribute point distribution, ensure first that you have sufficient points on Dex to reduce the 12-second variable cast time of Interstellar Raid. After that, you should max out Int to boost magic attack, which serves as a foundation for increasing magic damage. If equipped with an item that grants spell crit chance, then luck becomes an important stat as well. Every 6 luck increases your spell crit damage by 1% or 1.1% if you have a Kamar card deposited in the handbook. Personally, I aim for at least 40% spell crit chance for a good trade-off. As for the remaining points, I allotted on strength for extra skill damage since I use a Zenobia card. When it comes to damage modifiers, focus on these stats to help maximize the damage of your Interstellar Raid and other ground AoE damage skills. Ignore Death is especially important as the needed amount varies depending on the PVE content you're facing. For current late game dungeons, around 171% is the maximum you need if you want to fully counter the magic defense of targets. If you have a Belcranel card deposited in the handbook, investing in crit damage will also boost your spell crit damage. It's very important to have a balanced distribution across these stats since over-investing in a single stat can lead to diminishing returns. Up next, let's go over the recommended skill point allocation. For the Tier 1 Mage skill tree, the only skill that truly matters is increased spiritual recovery for improving SP regen. For the Tier 2 Wizard skill tree, you should max out Energy Code, Lord of Vermilion, and Storm Gust. Even if Storm Gust is not always part of your auto rotation, you can still cast it manually if fighting against fire element monsters. For the advanced Tier 2 High Wizard skill tree, make sure to upgrade Amplify Magic Power and Alight. For the Tier 3 Warlock skills, prioritize leveling up Recognize Spell, Fast Reading Spell, White Barrier, Elemental Enhancement, Lattice Vulnerability, and Earth Strain. For your Master skills, I recommend following this skill progression, then gradually upgrading the rest as you accumulate more Zenny. This because all passives increase the damage potential and overall performance of Interstellar Raid. Up next for Aesir Monument, these are the most important nodes to activate. We have 6 points on Meteor Storm 1 and 2 to learn level 8 Meteor Storm. 1 point each on Fire Pillar attack and double Fire Pillars to generate Fire Pillars on targets hit by Meteor Storm. 3 points on Fire Pillar Empower to boost its damage by 150%. 3 points on Status Vulnerability Enhanced to boost its effect by 9%. 3 points on Invisible Space to be able to cast AoE skills from a longer distance. And finally, just activate all Fire, Wind, Water, and Earth damage nodes as well as Int and Magic Attack nodes. I deliberately chose not to activate the Lord of Vermilion Mastery nodes since lowering its cast delay too much actually disrupts the auto skill rotation. Instead of cycling smoothly through the other AoE skills, the system tends to prioritize Lord of Vermilion and ends up spamming it repeatedly. Up next is dive into the recommended equipment set and cards. A Tier 6 Staff of Element Fusion Star is the best overall choice as it boosts Wind, Fire, Water, and Earth damage by 10%, AoE magic damage by up to 60%, and skill damage by 5%. The main downside is that it does not provide Ignore Def. If you cannot meet the Ignore Def requirements for the content you're clearing, your damage may actually fall short despite the huge AoE magic damage bonus. At the current stage of the game, it is still challenging for many F2B players to secure Inside 4th Enchant on both face and back, which makes reaching the Ignore Def requirement harder. A Tier 6 Precision Staff remains a very good alternative as it gives a huge amount of Ignore Def, Magic Attack, and VCT reduction, making it much more forgiving in terms of Ignore Def requirement. Aim for Magic 4th Enchant for reducing VCT and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck or Stun Rest roll. But if you have a Belcranel card deposited in the handbook, aim for Sharp 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Crit Damage roll. As for weapon cards, you can mix and match depending on the stat you're lacking. For offhand, the best in slot is the Book of Sacrifice Star as it significantly boosts your Ignore Def. Refining it to plus 15 is a top priority as it grants a total of 51% Ignore Def. Aim for Inside 4th Enchant for additional Ignore Def and reset the 3rd attribute to a High Luck roll. As for offhand card, the options are Wicked Sunflower Star card for increasing AoE magic damage or Alice Star card for increasing damage to MVP and Mini. For armor, go for Robe of Cast Star as it gives a balanced amount of magic damage modifiers. Aim for Magic 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck or Sunrest roll. But if you have a Belcranel card deposited in the handbook, aim for Sharp 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Crit Damage roll. As for armor card, inlay an Ice Wallenstein card for boosting final damage, Magma Golem card for boosting damage to MVP and Mini, or Munich Star card if you're lacking Ignore Def. For garment, the only option is not Seeker's Cloak Star for increasing Ignore Def, Magic Attack, and skill damage. Aim for Arcane 4th Enchant for boosting magic damage and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck or Sunrest roll. As for garment card, inlay a Zenobia card for boosting skill damage. For footgear, go for Crystal Pump Star or Rune Boot Star for boosting magic attack. Aim for Arcane 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck or Sunrest roll. As for footgear card, inlay a Moonlight Flower Star card to help reposition easily and dodge AoE attacks, or Swordsman Sender card for increasing skill damage. For accessories, just choose depending on the stat you're lacking. Personally, I prefer Eye of the Lahan Star for 20% magic attack or Exorcism Sachet Star for 10% spell crit chance. Aim for Anti-Mage 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck roll. As for accessory cards, the current best picks are Demonic Overseer card for boosting skill damage and final damage, and Witch of Calamity card for boosting luck and spell crit chance. For headwear, here are my top picks for each slot. For head, the Wheel of Fortune 4-leaf clover is the best in slot as it grants 20% spell crit chance. In case you missed that headwear in the limited skin shop, you can use any of the following for boosting damage. Aim for a high magic attack and luck enchant. As for headwear cards, there are plenty of options such as Walter card for skill damage, Sakura card for shoot of final damage, Belcranel card for spell crit chance, or Katarina card for M-Pen. For Oracle, you can opt to use an Orc Hero card if you don't have high stun resist. For Face, I recommend getting a Winter Crown, a High Refined Monocle, or a Juggling Queen. Aim for Insight 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck roll. For Muff, use True Phantom for 5% damage to MVP, Whisper of Love for 5% AoE magic damage, or Ceremony Spinning Sweet Dream for 4% MP. Aim for High Luck and Magic Attack Enchant. For Back, the best in slots is a Rough Greasy Fallen Feather, which can be obtained from merging 6 Angel Snow Feathers, but since it's too rare and expensive, other options are Goodwill Gift Box, Love Goddess, or Lost Star Track. Aim for Insight 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck roll. And lastly for Tail, I recommend using Peter Wendy for boosting MP. Aim for Arcane 4th Enchant and reset the 3rd attribute to High Luck roll. Up next, here are the other upgrades that you can invest in to further boost your damage. For guild buffs, prioritize maxing out your Wise Blessings for additional magic attack. As for praying cards, prioritize MP, Ignore Death, and magic attack for attack cards, and wind, fire, water, and earth damage for element cards. For equipment memory, make sure to max them out to level 40 for increasing magic attack. Select the following preferred stacks from that stack and special word pools, which help boost your damage output. For skill inheritance, you can get improved concentration along with MP, magic damage, luck, and dex. If you have a Belcrandle card deposit, you may also consider inheriting Exceed Break. For pets, get a Moonlight Flower for plus 2% MP, Marin for plus 6% Ignore Death, or Martin Scavenger for plus 10 int. But for solo runs, it's better to get an Aboon or Sire's Pet for the Resurrection skill. For multi-drop, unlocking these classes would be beneficial. You can get more int for magic attack, luck for spell crit damage, and dex for VCT reduction. And for Adventure Handbook, just focus on collecting items and achievements that grant magic attack, int, and other damage modifiers when unlocked or deposited. These stats add up significantly over time and will noticeably boost your damage output. Finally, let's go over some battle tips for using Interstellar Raid effectively. First, make sure all these buffs are included in Prepare for Elite. Energy Code, Amplify Magic Power, Recognize Spell, and Invisible Space. For White Barrier, it's up to you whether you want to include it in your Prepare for Elite rotation or cast it manually when you need extra protection. Then place the following skills in your manual and auto skill bars. As mentioned earlier, I prefer putting Interstellar Raid, Meteor Storm, Earth Strain, and Lord of Vermilion in my auto rotation as it feels most stable in practice. Once you're all set, use the following consumables that boost your damage, such as meal bees, food buffs, and alloys. Before initiating combat, cast Prepare for Elite to activate all self buffs at once. After that, just turn on your auto to cast Interstellar Raid and other AoE damage skills. And don't forget to cast White Barrier to protect yourself from being damaged. You can also cast Storm Gust if fighting fire element monsters. And there you have it, that wraps up my guide on Warlock's 3rd master skill. Overall, Interstellar Raid is a powerful master skill with great AoE damage potential in both PvE and PvP. What do you guys think? Is MS3 better than Warlock's MS1 and MS2? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, that's it for this video guys. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed watching this guide. If you're new here, I would love you to consider subscribing by hitting the subscribe button down below. I would love to have you back. Thank you for watching and see you in our next episode.